Titanic Vision Entertainment and GA Productions present a short film that tells a moving story based on real-life events and delves into the issues, questions and problems facing many young people today.
Hey! Oh, you're all right? You alright?
Yeah, just fell this morning.
We got you again, didn't we?
Just leave it. Stop and leave me alone!
Gary, tell me where the idea for this film came from.
Right, well, we started in October 2013. We were in college, and we were told to make our own plays and stuff. We were partnered up and stuff on Facebook and Twitter and stuff. I had seen that there was a few suicides that night before, and then I said to Adam that we should do something regarding suicide and stuff.
Adam he acts in this film with you as well.
He acts in it. He wrote it. And he also produced it as well.
There's obviously a very serious message of bullying behind it, and the impact that can have on people's lives and how that can spiral. We talk a lot about bullying, but do you think in Northern Ireland is it something that we're open enough about?
No, there has to be more action took, definitely. Even broadcasting it on radio and television and stuff, just to get that message out. There's not enough, I believe.
Helena, what was your role in this?
My role was as production manager. I think a lot of lip service is given to bullying, but I don't think people actually do enough about it.
So you think basically we sometimes talk a lot about bullying and things like that, but in terms of actually doing something about it to raise awareness, we're maybe not so good following up?
Yes. We had a little incident during the filming. When we were filming in Armagh, and it was the bully scene, and there was a lot of aggression happening. And yes, it was rehearsals actually, not when we were filming. And we didn't notice. We did notice there was a lot of people bipping horns and things like that, but suddenly we heard this big "Oi, stop that!" And somebody had actually parked up their car and got out of their car and did something about it, and that.
So they thought it was real.
Yeah.
They thought it was real.
That just goes to show how good this film is. So in rehearsals, people thought what was happening. They thought it was real. Got out of their car and came over to try and intervene.
Yes.
Where was he from?
He was from New Zealand.
Yeah. This New Zealand fella came run towards us, jumped over the wall. Just stop. We're doing a film here.
For all of the hundreds of cars, if he thought a fight was really happening, and all the hundreds of cars that had gone past, and we heard a few bips of horns, only one person actually did something. And
it's slightly disappointing that he wasn't from this side of the world at all.
You came to me with nothing.
Tell me a bit about your character.
My character, Reese, he's the best friend of Sam, despises bullying. He doesn't like seeing Sam getting hurt all the time.
And obviously the character of Sam, just to give us a bit of a, I don't want to spoil the entire film, but the plot in terms of what happens, tell me briefly a bit about that and how your character is involved in that.
Well, Reese is really there for him the whole entire movie. He's there as a friend, and he's there just to look out for him. He sticks up for him.
The main plot line that runs through this is bullying, trying to do something about it, and those that stand back and say nothing. And then there are people that do intervene, and also there is homophobia throughout this as well. And there are also issues of suicide and suicidal thoughts and alcoholism. Yep. So there's a lot wrapped up in a 20-minute film. I want to bring in Luke at this point. Luke, tell me a bit about your own involvement in this film.
I've done some acting before, like a first big speaking role, and what I do is I just introduce the film and introduce you to the bullies. But I feel like I can really relate to it because I have been bullied most of my life, and I have considered suicide several times.
What age are you, Luke?
13.
Like that's a lot to say for anyone of any age, but especially if a 13-year-old.
Yeah.
What happened in terms of your own experience in secondary school?
I got called a lot of names, and people just for no reasons just started hitting me and beating the crap out of me. But because I've been bullied now, I don't really take offence to any insults. So some good has come out of it. How did you get it to stop? Sort of. You sort of have to fight fire with fire. So if you are getting bullied, my big advice is if it's like a mental bully, like they call you stuff, try to think about it and try to do something that would make them think. And if it's more of a physical bully, well, they understand violence, so punch them as hard as you can in the centre of the face.
So if they punch you, you punch them back?
Yeah.
but then you get into trouble.
That is a fair point. You know you can, which doesn't sound fair at all, but you could get in trouble then yourself. Although
it is self-defense.
if there is someone listening to this who has been a bully or does, they maybe don't even perceive themselves as a bully, what would your advice be to them, to in terms of their actions and what they're doing?
I would probably say go to counselling and talk to someone about it, because I ended up doing that for about 4 or 5 weeks, and it really helped.
You went to counselling yourself?
Yes.
And what kind of help did that give you?
Well, it sort of made me realise that, well, insults can't hurt. The only thing that can really hurt is them hitting me. And if I be careful about it, I can avoid that.
I guess when we do talk about bullying, sometimes it's what we refer to as talking heads, so people that are giving advice or information or whatever it might be, and it's not necessarily people that have experienced things themselves. So what kind of impact did it have on you, the bullying, when people were calling you names or where they were physically attacking you? And I don't just mean you get punched in the arm and that hurts, but what actually happens inside your head?
You just think, like, why are they doing this? Like, what have I done wrong to deserve this? Why am I getting hit like this? Do I need to punish myself for something? And like,
so you kind of thought it was your own fault. You were asking why it was happening, what you had done to deserve it.
Yeah, and it's made worse nowadays. Like, it didn't happen to me, but like through social media and things like that.
You've said what you think your message would be to people that do the bullying. If there's someone on the receiving end of it, like you have been and sometimes still are, what would your message be?
Do talk about it. That's the most important thing. You can solve it on your own, but it's a lot easier to do it when you have people behind you. Make like a log of when they are doing things to you, and then if you do get in trouble for it, then you have that to back yourself up.
You've obviously had quite a few bad experiences, but you seem like quite a cool character, very collected and grounded. You seem much more confident than I did when I was your age.
I don't know, it's just like, I guess it's because I've learned to not take offence from insults. I mean, I'm bigger than them. They might think that, I'm just going to say this to them to make it see what happens. If you actually turn it against them, they become really confused and they don't really know what to say, and it's really funny watching them just squirm.
Gary, this film, suicide is one of the main plot lines that runs through this, which is a really difficult subject. Was there a reason why you wanted to bring that in?
Whenever we started this in October, obviously I never had any, or the family never had any intention of anything happening within our family. But in December, I had lost my little cousin to suicide. He was only 13 and I had lost him on the 6th of December. And that was the morning we were actually having a meeting with the production company of our film, Titanic Vision Entertainment. So it was really, really hard on us. But from my little cousin's suicide, we had learned more and made us to take more action.
You know exactly how it feels to lose someone that way.
Yeah.
What did that do to you that Friday morning?
Couldn't cope. Couldn't talk right. Was just speechless. Was sick and just felt really bad.
I think when speaking from my own experience, it opens up a question that will never be answered. And you do always ask yourself why something like that would happen and could happen, and there's then that question of, well, what could I have done to help, or could anyone have done anything to help? And I guess that's maybe where it makes this film a bit more relevant again, in that talking about these kind of things can help in some small ways. In terms of, I think a lot of people that have taken their own lives in the past, if you had asked their friends or family, or maybe even them beforehand, do you consider yourself suicidal? I'm sure most of them would have said no, until they're in that moment and whatever engulfs them and takes them to that place. Whereas I think if we all were maybe more open about talking about it, like this film is trying to do, where we find it, we can broach these topics. It might not be around the dinner table, but if you're feeling that way, you can maybe approach your parents or approach a friend or tell somebody about it, and maybe that one word in that first chat will be that breaking point that stops you going the whole way through.
Starring Gary Wales and Adam McCaffrey.
He doesn't deserve any of this. What has he ever done on us?
I'm not going to be able to back you up. I'm warning you.
Too late.
I take it, Helena, that this is one of the key issues of this film for you in terms of why it was so important.
Yes, absolutely. With Luke's experiences and his suicidal thoughts at stages in his life, the fact that he had counselling, and the fact that actually most of the people who were filming on the set had been bullied at some stage or another. I actually believe that probably 90% of the population have been bullied in some way or another.
Look, tell me about, and I find it slightly difficult and uncomfortable to ask a 13-year-old about having suicidal thoughts, but what was happening in your head?
I just wanted it to stop, but I couldn't really think of any other way to make it stop. And it was just like a really bad situation where you lose both ways, where unless you manage to find a third option, which is quite hard to do, but if you do go for the third option, because one thing I think is like bullies these days, because there's so many ways they can do it, people can think they're just talking to you and like making a joke at you, when actually like it makes you feel really bad.
Or I guess some people, if they don't have anyone to share that with, or they decide not to tell anyone, then they're left with their own thoughts in their head, and these can, that can be a way of them multiplying. What age were you when you were having suicidal thoughts?
I was 12.
And what did you do about them?
I just kept them up in my head. I always tried to find a way to get rid of the anger. For like whenever I was at that time, we have the garage just full of wood, and we have an axe, so I just spent most of my time just destroying stuff in there to like try and vent most of my anger. So if you do like are feeling bad or angry, definitely try and get it out.
Don't bottle it up.
Yeah.
When you were having suicidal thoughts, did you talk to your mum?
Not until I was at the breaking point, and then like.
What was that breaking point?
It was just whenever it just wouldn't stop. Every day I was coming home thinking, I'm gonna do it, I'm gonna do it, I'm gonna do it. And then most of the times when I did that, like because we have a dog, it just looking at you just like, changes it, because you don't want to leave something like that behind. And once whenever I was like really thinking of doing it, I had a cup of bleach out in front of me, and because my dog thinks that everything's food, he was just sitting there looking at me like, really, can I have it, can I have it? And it just like made me think, why am I doing this to myself? It's just, I need to deal with it. And one big message I should say is like, it's good to be able to deal with it on your own, but if you can deal with it on your own, then you're sort of prepared for what life is like. But if you can't deal with it on your own and you need help, it's good to get help. I mean, help makes it so much easier to deal with.
And what did you say to your mum?
I was feeling really down. I was hanging around town waiting for my bus, and I just sent my mum a text saying I'm feeling depressed / suicidal. And it was about the 7th or 8th time I was feeling this way. So.
And what did your mum say?
Well, I got the text at work, and I immediately stopped everything and phoned. And by that time,
what goes through your head when you read a text like that from your son, your 12-year-old son?
Well, I thought, I'm an hour away from home. What on earth am I going to do in this situation? So I phoned him, and I said to him, look, I'm leaving work now. Let's sit down and have a talk about this. And in the meantime, I phoned our GP, and I got Luke an immediate urgent GP appointment. And I will say that once I said that my son had suicidal thoughts, I got the GP appointment immediately. So we went to the GP at around about 5 that night, and he spent half an hour with us. He spent some time with Luke on his own, and some time with me on my own, and some time with us both. And he recommended some counselling, which we started the next day. So within a few hours, something tangible was done about Luke's feelings, and he knew that there was a mechanism out there that he could actually reach out and get help from other people. And I think that was the biggest thing.
It must be a mother's worst nightmare. And this is almost, I understand, Luke, what you were going through a horrendous time, but
I think I
doesn't get
went
much
over
worse.
70 when I was on the motorway. No, horrendous. I've actually lost a daughter whenever through medical, from medical reasons, a number of years ago. So I actually know what losing a child is like. She was 15, so that's another reason why we were totally involved once the film started, because we were able to see the emotion. We needed that emotion within the film.
And did you have any idea beforehand how things were for Luke, or how he was feeling?
I knew he was being bullied. He's being bullied quite a lot throughout school, and we moved his primary school because he was getting bullied, and in his second primary school, he had a couple of male teachers who were fabulous.
So you knew that there had been problems, but just
Yes.
not it had got to that
No, I
stage.
didn't realise his mind was like that.
I guess that is the problem for a lot of people and families in this situation, that sometimes they don't send the text that Luke did to you, and they find out when it's too late.
Yes, absolutely. I think the trigger points, I think there are so many trigger points that I didn't know there was a trigger point for Luke. I mean, I know generally there will be trigger points for anybody trying to take their own life, but it's knowing what those trigger points are. It's knowing how other people, how they talk, how they speak to you. And
So it's really, I suppose, listening to your family. It's not
Yes.
just kids. It's not just your children. It
Yeah.
could be anyone, a friend. It could be even your parents. So it's just, I guess, we're all so busy, but it's really listening to people in your life and maybe trying to pick up, which is really difficult. I guess at the best of times, but trying to pick up when there is something wrong.
I looked up the NISRA stats for suicides, and in 2012 the provisional stats at that stage were something like 280 people a year in 2012 had taken their own lives. That's almost one every 1.5 days, which is horrendous.
And Northern Ireland is such a small country, really.
I've been in a situation where I've been bullied quite a lot, and I've had a group of people surrounding me, just watching me get physically beat up on the ground.
And what happened in that situation?
I was just panicking, and I was just protecting myself. I was covering my face quite a lot.
What age were you then?
I started getting bullied when I was about 7, and it really stopped bullying once I started the Southern Regional College.
What was the worst for you in terms of the actual bullying? How bad did it get?
Got kicked in the head 12 times at full force, and I ended up with a brain concussion. I had to go to the hospital.
And where did this happen? Was it in school or?
No, it was outside school. I had got attacked at the side of my house from 3 boys and masks.
And was there ever anyone prosecuted for that?
No, they never found them. There was no CCTV, there was no cameras around, so they could.
What does that do to you when school is one thing, and you want to be safe at school and something like that not to happen, but if something like that happens almost in your own home, around the corner from where you live, what does that do to you, your mental state?
There's bullies around every corner. We're just freaked. That's the only word that I can use, is freaked.
What do you mean?
Seeing 3 fellows run towards you with masks on, no thanks.
But afterwards, how did that affect you?
Thinking to myself, what did I do to deserve this? I was just wondering, why?
It stopped when you were about 16. One of the difficult things about bullying is when it starts, you just don't know where the end is.
Yeah, I thought it was never going to stop, but then obviously once I started the SRC, I was still getting bullied because of the musicals and stuff. They were calling me names like, "Oh, look at you, you wee high-pitched singer," and whatnot, until my voice broke. And
as you can tell right now.
Yeah, and then I done Grease.
Gary, what would you say, just to encourage people to watch this film?
Help us get this message out, definitely. Do what you can to stop it. If you see it, put an end to it. Stand up and take action.
And if people want to watch it, how can they?
They can watch it if you go onto our Facebook, our official Facebook page. There's links on there for UK customers. It's available from eBay. which is straight from DVD, and it's available worldwide on IndieRain, which there's also links on our Facebook page as well. And we're also in talks of applying it to YouTube.
What is the Facebook page?
It's /Too Late Movie, the number 2.
Okay, well listen, thank you three for coming down to talk to me, and good luck with the film.